You're not losing your mind, you're just constantly absorbing energy that was never yours to carry, and until you learn how to protect your peace in a world addicted to noise, you'll keep mistaking chaos for reality. Let's fix that today. When you're constantly surrounded by negativity, when it's at work, in your home, online, or even in your own thoughts, it's easy to feel like you're just being pulled into it. Like you're drowning in someone else's storm, but let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. Your energy is not a reaction to the world, it's a choice, and the moment you realize that is the moment everything begins to shift. Most of us go through life reacting. Someone gives us attitude, we match it. Someone disrespects us, we snap back. A bad situation hits, we panic, spiral, explode, or shut down, and it feels natural, right, like it's just how we protect ourselves. But what if I told you that protection doesn't always come from reacting? It comes from remaining rooted in who you are, no matter what's swirling around you. Negativity wants you to react. That's how it wins. That's how it pulls you down to its level. It feeds off your reaction because reaction is emotion without intention. But when you learn to pause, when you learn to center yourself even when everything around you is off balance, that's when you become untouchable. That's when you take your power back. Staying calm doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're ignoring the problem. It means you're refusing to give that problem control over your emotions. You're saying, I see it, I hear it, but it's not going to live in me. Because that's the truth. Whatever you allow to enter your peace begins to shape your mind, your mood, your day. And look, I get it. Some of you are in environments that feel heavy every single day. Maybe it's a toxic workplace where your efforts are unappreciated. Maybe it's family that never seems to support you, only criticize you. Maybe it's a partner or friend who constantly drains your spirit. But here's the truth, you may not be able to walk away physically right away, but you can decide, starting today, that your energy is yours. That your calm is not negotiable, that you're no longer going to let other people's chaos dictate your inner peace. You don't need their validation, you don't need their understanding, you need your own permission to protect your peace. Because peace isn't something you find, it's something you build, and when you've built it brick by brick, through self-respect, self-discipline, and self-awareness, it doesn't collapse just because someone else walks in with a storm. So when they gossip, when they lie, when they insult, when they try to get a reaction out of you, don't give it to them. Not because you're scared, but because you're grounded, because you know exactly who you are, because you understand the strength it takes to walk away instead of argue, to stay silent instead of retaliate, to smile when all they want is to see you break. Every day you get to decide, am I going to let the world shape me, or am I going to shape how I move through the world? Choose yourself, choose your energy, choose to rise above the noise, and when they try to bring you down, just remember, your calm is louder than their chaos. One of the most powerful things you can do when you're in a negative environment is something that sounds incredibly simple, but it changes everything. It's the pause, just that small space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. Most people miss it. Most people skip right over it, especially when emotions are high. Someone says something disrespectful and you fire back. Someone pushes your buttons and you explode. It's automatic, it feels justified, but it's not power, that's reaction. And reaction, when it's not thoughtful, often leads to regret. But the pause, that split second of awareness, that's where your real strength is. That's the place where calm lives. That's the moment when you get to take control back. You're not denying what was said or done. You're not pretending it didn't bother you. You're simply choosing not to hand over your power to it. And here's the truth, when you pause, people notice, not because you're loud, but because you're still, because you didn't let the negativity pull you into its rhythm. Because you didn't match the volume, or the anger, or the disrespect, you disrupted it with calm. That pause, it creates discomfort for the person trying to get a rise out of you. It throws them off, and most importantly, it gives you space to think, to breathe, to respond from clarity instead of chaos. Now don't get me wrong, this isn't easy, especially when someone is pressing every one of your emotional triggers. When you feel like you're being cornered, judged, disrespected, your brain wants to protect you, it wants to defend. That's natural, that's survival, but growth comes when you don't just live in survival mode, Growth comes when you train yourself to pause even when everything inside of you wants to fight back. Because the pause isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's intention, it's you saying, I don't operate on your level, I don't need to shout to be heard. I don't need to react to be strong, and when you show up like that, composed, measured, steady, it changes the entire energy in the room. It's not always loud, but it's always felt. That pause gives you access to something deeper, wisdom. It gives you time to evaluate, is this worth my energy? Is this really about me? Or is this person projecting their own pain? What outcome do I want here? And when you begin asking better questions in that space, your answers change, your behavior changes, your peace expands. You see, when you're constantly reacting, you become predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to control, but when you pause, you become intentional. Grounded, centered, and that is something people can't touch. That's when they start realizing, I can't get to this person like I used to. And that right, there is the moment you stop being the victim of your environment and start becoming the master of your energy. Think about how many moments in your life could have turned out differently if you had just paused, how many arguments wouldn't have escalated, how many relationships might have been spared, how much energy you could have saved. And the beautiful thing is, it's not too late to start practicing that now. The next time someone throws negativity your way, stop just for a second, let the silence be your power. Let the stillness be your message, and then decide who you want to be in that moment, not who they're trying to turn you into. That's your freedom, that's your leadership, that's how you protect your peace and set a new standard, not just for how others treat you, but for how you treat yourself. Let the world spin, let the noise rise, you pause, and you stay grounded. There's something I want you to really sit with. Not everything that surrounds you has to enter you. Just because you're around negativity doesn't mean it has to live in you. And I get it, when you're constantly in toxic environments or around people who thrive off criticism, gossip, or conflict, it feels almost impossible not to be affected. But that's where the shift begins. That's where you stop absorbing and start observing. Because here's the truth, most people are walking around like emotional sponges, soaking up every rude comment, every eye roll, every tone shift. They internalize it, they make it personal. They carry it, and before they know it, they're walking around heavy with energy that doesn't even belong to them. They're burdened by emotions that were never theirs in the first place. You don't have to carry what someone else is spilling. You're allowed to witness it without making it your own. That coworker who's always complaining, that family member who seems determined to find something wrong with you. That stranger online who's quick to judge without knowing your story. You don't have to take it in. You can see it, acknowledge it, and let it pass right by you. And I want to make this clear, this isn't about pretending. It's not about being fake or acting like things don't bother you. It's about recognizing that you have a choice. You can observe the negativity without becoming it. You can stand in the storm and still remain dry. That's a skill. That's discipline, that's awareness. When someone's being negative, it says more about them than it ever will about you. Maybe they're hurting, maybe they're insecure, maybe they don't even realize they're projecting. But the moment you absorb it, you start playing a role in their story instead of living your own. You start reacting to their energy instead of honoring your own. So the question becomes, are you going to let their energy shape you? Or are you going to hold your ground and stay in your peace? Because people will test you. Life will test you. You'll be surrounded by opinions, judgments, criticism, and some of it will come from the people closest to you. But just because it's loud doesn't mean it's true. Just because it's constant doesn't mean it's your responsibility to fix, to carry, or to respond to. Start treating your peace like a home with locked doors. Not everyone gets to walk in. Not every voice gets to echo in your mind. Not every emotion gets a seat at your table. There's power in being aware of what's happening around you, but not allowing it to shift what's happening within you. And the beautiful thing is, once you learn this, you start to feel lighter, freer. You start realizing how much energy you've been spending trying to manage other people's moods. You stop over-explaining, overreacting, overthinking, because now you're observing, you're present, but you're not entangled, you're aware, but you're not consumed. That person with the sharp tongue, you see them, but you don't carry their words with you into your next hour. That negative comment, you rate it, but you don't let it echo in your mind for the next 3 days. You've built a filter, you've built emotional armor, not to block the world out, but to keep your peace in. You were never meant to absorb every emotion in the room. You were meant to lead yourself through it. And when you start leading with intention, with boundaries, with clarity, the noise around you might still be loud, but inside it's calm. Inside you're grounded and nothing shakes that. You don't have to become what you're surrounded by, you can witness it and still choose peace. Sometimes people think setting boundaries means you have to announce them with a megaphone, like you have to confront, explain, or prove why you deserve peace. But the truth is, the strongest boundaries are often the quietest ones. They're not always spoken, they're practiced. They're lived. You don't always have to say, "I'm done with this," or "I'm not accepting this energy anymore." Sometimes it's in your silence, it's in your shift, it's in how you protect your peace without needing an audience. Because here's what happens when you're surrounded by negativity and you don't have solid emotional boundaries. Everything hits you. Every sarcastic comment, every mood swing, every ounce of drama, it finds a way in, and little by little, you start to feel overwhelmed, drained, even resentful. Not because you're weak, but because you haven't drawn a line. And here's the thing, most people aren't going to respect boundaries that aren't clear, even if those boundaries are emotional. So when you show up differently, not colder, not meaner, but calmer, more centered, they start to notice. They don't always understand it, and they don't need to. You're not building walls to keep people out, you're creating space to keep yourself in. Setting emotional boundaries doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you stop listening, it means you stop sacrificing your well-being to keep the peace around you. And I know that might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're someone who's always been the peacekeeper, the fixer, the one who smooths everything over. But let me ask you something. How many times have you kept the peace on the outside while falling apart on the inside? That's not peace, that's self-abandonment, and it catches up with you, emotionally, mentally, physically. So setting boundaries is not just an act of strength, it's an act of self-respect. It's you saying, "I matter too." It's not selfish, it's essential. And here's where it gets even more powerful, when you learn to set those boundaries without explaining them, without defending them, without making someone else feel comfortable with your decision. You don't have to tell them, "Hey, I'm protecting my peace now." You just start doing it. You start responding less to things that drain you. You start showing up with intention instead of obligation. You start removing yourself from conversations that go nowhere, that stir up anxiety, that keep you stuck. That's emotional maturity. That's leadership. That's grace in action. There will be people who don't like it, who say you've changed, who push back harder when they realize they can't access you the way they used to. And when that happens, stay calm. Let them feel what they need to feel. You're not responsible for how they receive your growth. You're only responsible for how you protect it. Because when your peace becomes non-negotiable, everything else begins to align. You start choosing your response instead of reacting out of guilt. You start honoring your energy instead of constantly explaining yourself. And most importantly, you create space for people who do respect your boundaries. People who understand your silence, people who don't demand a performance just to stay connected to you. And even if no one around you gets it right away, you'll start to feel it. That lightness, that strength, that calm, because now you're not letting chaos live rent-free in your mind. You're not giving every moment, every person, full access to your emotional world. You're no longer available for every argument, every guilt trip, every conversation that leaves you feeling small. You're not rude. You're not distant, you're not bitter, you're just clear about what you allow, clear about what you carry, and clear about who you're becoming. And when you're clear, you don't need to yell it, you just walk in it. There comes a moment in your life where you have to decide what matters more, your peace or their approval. And when you're surrounded by negativity, that decision becomes even more important. Because so much of that negativity comes from people who haven't found peace within themselves. So they criticize, they compare, they tear down what they don't understand. And if you're not rooted in who you are, you'll start to think that the way they treat you is a reflection of your worth. But it's not, it's a reflection of their own pain. The more you chase outer approval, the more you silence your inner voice. You start shaping your personality to avoid conflict. You shrink your spirit just to be accepted. You compromise your standards because you're scared to stand alone. And that might buy you a few moments of harmony on the surface, but it will cost you your calm on the inside. You can't stay grounded when your sense of worth is tied to how other people respond to you. Because the truth is, people will shift. One moment they applaud you, the next they criticize you, one day they love your growth. The next they're uncomfortable with it. If you keep adjusting your peace based on their reaction, you'll never know what it feels like to be truly centered. The calm you're looking for, it's not out there. It's not found in likes, compliments, or validation. It's found in choosing to be loyal to your values, even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's unpopular, even when it costs you people who once claimed to support you, because peace is not about avoiding disapproval. Peace is about staying true to yourself when disapproval comes. You don't owe the world a version of yourself that's easy for everyone to digest. You owe yourself a life that's honest, and that honesty means sometimes saying no. It means setting limits. It means doing what's right for you even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And when that negativity rises, when the noise gets loud, when the pressure to conform hits hard, you have to go back to your center and ask, am I at peace with this choice? Does this align with who I am becoming? Because let's be real, you can't control how others perceive your calm. Some will mistake it for arrogance, others will see it as weakness, some might even try to push harder just to get a reaction out of you. But none of that defines you. What defines you is your ability to stay anchored in your truth regardless of what the world throws at you. You don't need to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to dim your light just to make someone else feel more comfortable in the dark. You don't need to perform for acceptance when your presence is already enough. That kind of clarity doesn't come overnight. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes choosing stillness when everything in you wants to shout back, defend, explain. It takes deciding over and over again that your peace is not up for negotiation, that your value isn't tied to how liked you are, but how whole you feel when the room is empty and it's just you and your reflection. And the beautiful thing is, once you stop chasing approval, you start attracting alignment. The right people find you. The right energy surrounds you, not because you changed to fit in, but because you stood still long enough for what was meant for you to catch up. So stop apologizing for your calm, stop shrinking in rooms you were born to take up space in. Stop watering down your truth so others can digest it easier. Stay rooted, stay still, stay real, because nothing protects your peace more than finally realizing you don't need their permission to own it. ChatGPT said, "There's something we often overlook when we talk about staying calm in a negative world, what we feed our minds every single day." It's easy to focus on external boundaries, on what to avoid, and how to respond to toxic people. But what about the quiet moments when no one else is around? What about the content you're consuming, the thoughts you rehearse, the internal dialogue you allow on repeat? Because those things, they shape you just as much, if not more, than the world outside. Negativity doesn't just come from people. It comes from patterns, from what you scroll through, what you listen to, what you allow yourself to sit in mentally. And over time, all of that builds a foundation. That foundation either supports your peace or constantly shakes it. If you're not intentional about feeding your mind with the right things, it becomes the breeding ground for every doubt, every insecurity, every fear that was ever whispered to you by someone else. You can't expect to feel grounded if the only messages you're hearing are ones that pull you down. You can't expect to feel strong if you surround yourself with voices that make you question your worth. That's why what you consume is just as important as what you ignore. Protecting your peace isn't only about blocking out the noise, it's about tuning into something better. Something higher, something that reminds you of who you are and what you're capable of. This is where discipline meets healing. Because it's not always easy to reach for the positive when you're surrounded by the negative. It's not always second nature to put on something uplifting when your thoughts are already spiraling. But you do it anyway. You do it not because you're pretending the negativity doesn't exist, but because you're refusing to let it win. You're choosing to balance the scales. You start small. Maybe it's reading something encouraging each morning before your phone starts buzzing. Maybe it's putting on a podcast that speaks life into your mindset. Maybe it's journaling, praying, meditating, whatever gets you centered. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. You just have to start feeding your mind with things that build you instead of break you. And it's not just about content. It's about conversations, the people you talk to, the environments you return to, who you allow to speak into your life on a regular basis. If the people you constantly engage with only know how to complain, criticize, or tear others down, you'll feel that weight, whether you realize it or not. Because energy is contagious, mindsets are contagious, and the more you're exposed to negativity without balancing it with intention, the more you'll start to reflect it, even if that was never your nature. This is why it's not selfish to be selective, it's not arrogant to be intentional, it's necessary, it's strategic, because if you don't program your mind, the world will do it for you. And it won't ask for your permission. You've got to actively, purposefully choose what you let in. You've got to water your own thoughts so negativity doesn't find dry ground to plant its roots. The more consistent you are with feeding your mind the right things, the more resilient you become. You stop reacting to every little jab. You stop doubting your worth every time someone disapproves. You stop allowing negativity to feel like the dominant voice in the room. Because now your mindset has been fortified, not by chance, but by daily choice. So don't wait for peace to just show up. Build it brick by brick, word by word, thought by thought. What you feed grows, and when you start feeding your mind with truth, with love, with strength, with clarity, calm becomes your default, not your fight. And that's how you stay calm when you're surrounded by negativity, by choosing every day to surround your mind with something better.